welcome to the show, and I want to thank you for listening. I appreciate it. We did run into some technical difficulties in recording the episode. Couldn't be helped. There was some static that comes through at a certain point for about a minute that I couldn't get out. Sorry, just couldn't be helped, people. But again, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Dans notre au quotidien.
All right, so today we're gonna be in First Nephi. We're starting in chapter 8, and we left off in First Nephi chapter 7 last time. And towards the end of that chapter, we spoke that the brothers, man, they really had it out, and it was pretty bad. I mean, it came to blows and a murder plot nearly. And finally, they forgave one another. They went home. They had sacrifice. Again, they offer sacrifice. So again, they had a meal. And I liken that meal to, maybe the Thanksgiving dinner. You've had a falling out, and this is kind of a Thanksgiving reunion type thing, and everything's hunky-dory now. And Nephi really did just frankly forgive him, and he told them that they needed to, ask the Lord for forgiveness, and they did. They really did do that, even before they continued their journey back to the tent, to Lehi's tent. So it was an interesting thing. But, we're going to move on to chapter 8. And chapter 8, Nephi tells of his father's dream, or his vision. And I'm probably not going to get a lot into what I think about that dream, because Nephi really just expounds on the dream. So I think I'm going to leave all of my pontificating, is that a word? to that time, and just kind of, walk through this chapter. But again, so they say they start gathering seeds. They gather together all manner of seeds in verse 1 of every kind, both grain of every kind and seeds and fruit of every kind. So, you got grain and fruit. Yeah, and they were getting prepared to take their journey really out of there. It's crazy. And again, this time frame, this is between 600 and 592 BC. So this is an 8-year period, and they haven't really gone anywhere yet. They're still just those, I think, 3-day journey into the wilderness, a few day journey into the wilderness away. So not very far away, right? And Lehi says Lehi wakes up from a dream that he had, and he says he's seen a vision, and it spooks him, right? Because of his 2 sons who refused to partake. They just wouldn't partake. But he does say he has joy over Nephi. And this is what he says, verse 3. I have reason to rejoice in the Lord because of Nephi and also of Sam. I guess seeing where he was after he's traveling with this man dressed in a white robe. And he says in verse 7, says, it came to pass that I followed him, and I beheld myself that I was in a dark and dreary waste. And after I had traveled for the space of many hours in darkness, I began to pray unto the Lord that he would have mercy on me according to the multitude of his tender mercies. Right, so Lehi, he's walking, and he starts noticing that, he knew it before he was in a dark wilderness, but now he's really concerned. He's in this dark and dreary waste. His eyes are open to the reality of the world, right? Many of the things sought after have little joy, and at times are detrimental to our ultimate happiness. We also see here the power of sincere prayer. We too often walk about in darkness, looking to escape through our own means. He has promised, as we seek him, capital H, he, capital H, will respond, right? And we'll learn later that it's a commandment to pray unto the Lord, right? He comes to people who've been sitting on the beach for 4 years waiting to go to a land of promise because they hadn't prayed. And he, just chastises their leader and chastens him in a cloud for 3 hours because they forgot to call upon the Lord. So the Lord commands us to pray. It's a commandment. It isn't a suggestion. It's a commandment, right? And he gives us commandments to bless us. So Lehi finds that he's in a dark and dreary world, and he looks across and he sees a large and spacious field, and he sees a tree whose fruit was desirable to make one happy. And he went forth and he partook of the fruit. And he says, and I beheld that the fruit thereof was white to exceed all whiteness that I had ever seen. And as I partook of the fruit thereof, it filled my soul with exceedingly great joy. Wherefore I began to be desirous that my family shall partake of it also, for I knew that it was desirable above all, right? So, Lehi is just, wow. And it's just a natural reaction. It isn't like he's commanded to, now, Lehi, go and make your family partake. And you got to do this. And if you don't do it, they're all going to not be survived. It's just a natural reaction that it's so good you want to share it. And this is what if some people get offended by, people knocking on their doors and saying hallelujah, or, in their work, saying hallelujah or whatever, you know what I'm getting at, speaking about their religion. People get offended by that stuff. But man, when someone feels joy that they have, they can't help it. At least that's, my experience. And let's take it to a little bit, more base thing. Let's take this to let's say a movie. When you got this great movie that you just couldn't wait to get out of and say, wow, man, tell your friends all about it, how great this movie was, and you can't wait to the end, man. You got to see the ending, right? That's what you do because it was a great movie. Or you had a great meal at a great restaurant and you're like, dude, last night, man, I took the wife out and went over to such and such and had the steak. Wow. So, it's just something you do. It's just who we are. We can't help it. And it's the same thing with religious things. Sorry, people. Especially with me, and you're going to get a little bit of Jesus. And I've kind of, tried to figure out how to be a little bit more tactful about it. It's not so much in your face anymore like it was when I was first baptized, man. I was pretty wild, but, I'm a little bit more tactful with it, I guess I should say. I love everybody. And so I want you to know that this fruit is just desirable. And Nephi goes on reporting his father's dream. Lehi says, as I cast my eyes round about, that perhaps I might discover my family also, I beheld a river of water, and it ran along, and it was near the tree of which I was partaking of the fruit. And I looked to behold from whence it came, and I saw the head thereof a little way off. And at the head thereof I beheld your mother Sariah and Sam and Nephi. And they stood as if they knew not whither they should go. And he, Lehi calls unto them, right? And they come and they partake, man. And they're like, yes. And then he looks for his other two sons, and they're kind of nowhere to be found. And he finally finds them, and they won't even come. They won't even come, right? And something that I noticed about this, already you can see the division that the Nephi and Sam were with the mother, so they were with the family. And the other two sons weren't even with the family, right? So they were already separated. Something interesting there. You go on and you got, other things that Lehi starts to notice in his vision or his dream when his sons don't partake. He sees a rod of iron. And again, Nephi will kind of break down what these things mean, these things. And so I won't get into it here. I'll let Nephi, from the Spirit teaching him directly, tell you the meaning of these things. So I don't even have to, and we don't need to speculate. It's going to tell you exactly what these are. And so I get to speculate on what Nephi says. So it's awesome. This book is amazing. I'm telling you, this is great. But he goes on and says he sees this rod of iron and it extending along the bank of the river that he saw, right? And these things led to the tree by which he stood. And he beheld a straight and narrow path. And again, when you're reading this, I'm reading it, right? It says straight as in STRAIT, not the GHT straight, like, straight line, right? This straight is a body of water, or a body, or a narrow neck of water that connects two bodies of water. Like, you got two maybe lakes, and you got a strait that runs through them. So I like that, a straight and narrow path, meaning that, and I just liken it because it says, you need to enter into that water, right? You got to enter in by the way in that water through baptism. I don't know. Maybe that's why they use that word straight. All right. And he saw numberless concourses of people just pressing their way forward, trying to get to this tree. Some grasp upon this rod of iron, and they held onto this rod of iron, and all of a sudden the mist of darkness rises. And again, Nephi will tell you what all these things mean. The mist of darkness rises, and these people, some let go, fall away. Some come and partake of the tree, and then they started looking about. And Lehi says he looks about to see what they're looking at, and he looks across the river, and he sees this building that has no foundation, right? He says it's basically floating up in the air, and people were in this building. He says there's old and young, and there's both male and female, and they're dressed like to the T, right? They're like, they got stilettos, red bottoms, or if you like, you got your Tommy Hilfigers, whatever you like. I don't know what the thing is. Michael Cross, I don't know what you wear today. I don't know what I got on. Some cat heads and some just regular jeans, but whatever. They say they were dressed to the T. Whatever the style is today, whatever we're claiming, that's what they're wearing, right? And they are pointing their fingers in the attitude of, basically mocking those who are partaking of the tree, right? And some of the people were ashamed who had partaken of it. Let's see what they say about the people there. It says that after they had tasted of the fruit, they were ashamed because of those who were scoffing at them, and they fell away into forbidding paths and were lost. And Nephi says he don't say all the words of his father, but he says, nevertheless, he saw other multitudes pressing their way forward, and they came and caught hold unto the end of the rod of iron, and they did press their way forward, continually holding fast to the rod of iron, until they came forth and fell down and partook of the fruit of the tree. Right? And he saw other multitudes feeling their way towards that great and spacious building. And it came to pass that many were drowned in the depths of the fountain, and many were lost from his view, wandering in strange roads. Man, that when I'm looking at that and thinking about what he's seeing, it's so crazy that people are, first they took of this tree and they partook, and then they just forgot what it tasted like. They just let go. And then they walked towards that tree, and they were drowned in the fountain that separated them.